me? Can you hear me at the back? Hi. Good morning. And especially nice to see Lady Catherine here. Thank you so much for coming. And I recognise my friends, Mr. and Mrs. Murphy and Irma Raymond Joseph, I was going to say partner in crime, that's wrong, but partner in development. And Mrs. Jane Armstrong, a consultant from the Maria Holden Memorial Trust. I'm a bit of a dating agency at Lifeline Ministries. I try to match people up, needs with resources. And so one of the things you see Sister Tina turning up at things to do with the elderly, things to do with children, things to do with the disabled, things to do with all sorts of different people and different things, because I'm trying to link up people with a need with people with a resource. Now, I'm only going to talk about Lifeline and Dial-A-Ride rather than Lifeline and the many, many other projects that we do together, because otherwise I'll be here forever, right? But just to tell you that these are my long-standing friends, and we're in it together. Whether it's disaster preparedness, women's empowerment, sign language for hearing people, all sorts of things that we've done together. And you can ask me afterwards if you want to know a great long list. Now, Dial-A-Ride was an idea that started in 2005. And it was an idea that was borrowed from Europe, where I'd been a social worker before and seen that people with disability and, in fact, any mobility challenge was able to call a service that did not cost the same as a taxi and get help to go from door to door. So I wrote a project actually for Life Goes On, which is an organisation helping people living with HIV. At the time, people living with HIV were being discriminated against because of their condition. And so I wrote to the Canada Fund for Local Initiatives, and they gave us the first bus in 2005. And DAPD have always been concerned with people who are discriminated against because of their physical condition. And so this was a natural collaboration together, and we worked together on the programme. We provided Meals on Wheels and home support and hospital visits for people living with HIV. And the members of DAPD came alongside in challenging the discrimination that was taking place. And eventually, Dominicans realised you cannot catch HIV from a bus seat. Right? Because people with HIV were not being allowed to get on buses. That was ridiculous. So we challenged it, and we successfully challenged it. And now I think most Dominicans know you get HIV from unprotected sex and not from bus seats. So praise God, we've had some education and some sensible behaviour now by bus operators who no longer exclude people who are known to live with HIV. I was very pleased about that. Now in the process, we established Dial-A-Ride as a service that people could call to get a ride from their home to wherever they needed to go. Not just hospital. Sometimes some people use the service to go on a date. Right? Are you noticing a little bit of giggling going on the head table? And some of those dates resulted in marriage. So this bus worked quite well, and I'm pleased to recommend it. Jahida Dorival, some of you know her, she's now almost 17, but she used the bus to go to primary school, and rather than she travelling alone like Princess Jahida, all her friends came along as well, and the bus service was established, so that even when she left Pioneer, the bus service continued to provide children with safe rides from their home to the school. Because lots of people need a safe ride. We also know that we need a safe ride if we're going home late at night. Any nurses here?
Yes.
Right. We know that lots of people need a safe ride home. And so this Dial-A-Ride bus service has developed from being just for people living with HIV and people with visible disabilities, that cause them mobility problems, it's developed. And now it's for anybody who needs a ride door to door can call Dial-A-Ride bus service. And I encourage people to, with organisations, to consider that people live in wheelchairs, using wheelchairs, should be coming to your activities. They shouldn't feel they can't come because they don't have transport. So you can call the Dial-A-Ride bus to pick up 10 people who don't use wheelchairs and one who does, so that you can go as a group to your activities, to the hot water or to the show last night at Allianz. There's all sorts of things that are going on, and your groups could be going to them and including people using wheelchairs. You know, DAPD has campaigned about access for a long time. Anybody can remember, excuse me, Mr. Murphy, anybody can remember Mrs. Roll in a previous life? Pushing, she was Mrs. Roll then, pushing Mr. Roll. Do you remember down the middle of the road?
Yes, yes.
Right? Nafo was the engine and Reggie was the steering wheel. But I learnt a great deal from Mr. Roll, I have to say, about campaigning. I watched him decide that when he had an appointment at the Ministry of Health, that he would require 4 people to carry him up. How many flights of stairs is it? Because the elevator in the Ministry of Health has never worked in my lifetime in Dominica. I have to say I've been here since 1994 and the elevator has never worked, which means that whenever I go up to the Ministry of Health I nearly have a heart attack because the steps are killing. So I just mentioned that, Lady Catherine, because I think somewhere there must be an estimate for putting that elevator to rights. Well, I'm sure it's promoting health, but for those of us who have a challenge with steps, it's actually excluding us from visiting the PS and others at the top of the steps. Ministry of Health is on the top floor, Mrs. Armstrong, for your information. So maybe you've done that trek yourself. So please find the budget for a new elevator and let's write a project and see if we can get disability access, even if we don't allow people who can make it up the stairs to use it. But people who really cannot use the stairs, I think we should have accessibility to all ministries for people who can't use the stairs. So after we got the first bus in 2005, we got a second bus in 2010. The Canada Fund recognised that we'd worn out the first bus and helped us with the second one. And then when the second one not only wore out but also was Mariaised, we recognised that it was time for the third incarnation of Dial-A-Ride. And in this case we want the bus to be used more for people living with disabilities to access everywhere that they need to go. And so it was appropriate for Lifeline to hand over the management of the Dial-A-Ride bus service to DAPD. And actually it's not a huge change because we were already collaborating well. But the responsibility now for running the bus goes to DAPD and their democratically elected board. Now, while it's been in the hands of Lifeline, the following people have helped us, and we're looking forward to those same people helping DAPD to continue to run the service. We have had help from First Domestic Insurance, from Jay's bookstore, from Petro Caribe, who gave us gas every month, from Ready, Willing and Able, who are a group in the States of past Peace Corps volunteers who are concerned about children accessing education. And all these people have assisted us over the years, and we hope they will continue to assist DAPD. One other interesting collaborator was First Caribbean Bank, who were able to take part with us in an accessibility campaign, and we rented them a ramp. And that does mean that if you're in a wheelchair and you need to get up the steps at First Caribbean, you now can ask the security officer to bring out the ramp to put it on the steps for you. I hope every organisation with steps to its front door would follow suit and have a ramp available so that people living in wheelchairs, people using wheelchairs, don't have to stay in the street and embarrass themselves by having things brought out to them rather than being able to go in and shop like anybody else. Finally, I would just like to say that I quite enjoy being a dating agency. Not meaning about Mr. and Mrs. Murphy here, but in bringing agencies together. And so, having become friends with the Maria Holden Memorial Trust, which is out of Barbados, I've tried to link it with a number of NGOs in Dominica so that they can meet up and benefit mutually. In fact, DAPD was one of the agencies that benefited immediately after the storm when Maria Holden Memorial Trust gave Lifeline a grant to share, and we shared it with 43 different NGOs to help us all get back in working order with computers and other office items. So this isn't the first time that you've had a gift, but it's a much larger gift from Maria Holden Memorial Trust. So nice to be a broker in this situation, to introduce two friends to each other and to see them become friends. So thank you very much.